Welcome to the Austin Method, where we help you develop the skills of square dancing. This segment is called Behind the Scenes. This is where we share things with you other than the skills we're already sharing in the Austin Method. So here's the deal. I'm going to get in trouble on this one. I'm not supposed to use the word level. Now, I've already used the word level in some of the previous behind the scenes. I wasn't supposed to use it then. I'm not supposed to use it now. But what do you call a program that's progressive? It has plateaus, and it has a certain amount of status applied as you reach each plateau. I call them levels. We're not supposed to use levels because we're not supposed to give the sense that this is better than this, and this is better than this, and this is better than this. And I understand that sentiment, and yes, but, and they're not better, although these dancers do tend to be better than these dancers, and these dancers tend to be better than these dancers if they've done the program correctly, because before they learned this level, they were supposed to have mastered this level, this plateau. We have many, many, many not levels in square dancing. We have Basic 1 and Basic 2, which are very small levels and not used a whole lot anymore, although I've heard rumors that they are still used in some of New England and maybe Europe, particularly Germany. But they're not used a whole lot anymore. We now have SSD, which is social square dancing. That's 50 calls, and that's what we've based this program on, and I think that it makes a lot of sense. We could get into why that makes sense. For a long time, the main level, the main entry level of square dancing was called mainstream. Okay, mainstream has about 70 calls. Counting calls is a little tricky in square dancing, but it has 70 calls, and that was the basic entry level. Well, it takes too long to teach. It takes too long to master, and it's too small a jump up to the next level, which is called plus. So you had 70 here, and then it's only 30 more to plus. Unfortunately, because it's only 30, people make that jump too early, because plus is supposed to be after you've mastered mainstream and learned certain things like APD, all position dance, and dance by definition. You're supposed to have really mastered it, because plus isn't just those 30 calls. It's additional concepts, and it's additional formations, and it's other things besides those 30 calls that if you haven't mastered mainstream, you're not going to do very well at plus. So I'm gonna, not to pick on, but they're a good example of not working it the way it was designed and what's wrong with square dancing in some respects. So a lot of clubs, not all, not everybody, don't get all upset, but a lot of clubs, and the majority of them, teach from 0 or nothing through plus. So they teach the whole 100 calls. But what that does is that means they've never mastered mainstream. They go all the way and do the other 30 calls, but they don't really have those concepts and constructs that they should have had before they learned plus. And so They aren't very good mainstream dancers because by the time you get to 100 calls and plus, there's a whole bunch of calls that just don't get called very often. In a night of dancing, there's only so many calls. I mean, you could conceivably fit the whole 100 in, but it wouldn't be very interesting choreography because you're trying to force in a lot of calls just to say you've used them. So a lot of calls start getting dropped as you go up in the levels and you never see them again. Well, so then if you're dancing plus, which is 100 calls, and you go to a mainstream dance and the mainstream callers are calling those calls you haven't seen in a long time, or maybe never seen because you've gone from 0 to plus and you've barely seen some of those calls, all of a sudden you can't dance. And it's like, why can't you dance? You're supposed to be a plus dancer, which means you're mainstream and plus, not your plus without the experience of mastering mainstream. You know, there are other reasons that different regions have for having reputations of having stronger or weaker dancers. Austin, Texas, for a long time, didn't have the best reputation, and it's for a whole different reason. I'm not going to go into it right now, but if you hear that dancers can't quite cut the mustard, or you run into them at nationals or somewhere else, that's why. It's not their fault. It's the way the programs have developed and been worked. And somebody said, hey, we want to dance plus all the time. We don't want to mess around with the mainstream. So they jump all their dancers all the way up, and it just doesn't work. So one of the problems with square dancing is for years, nobody had any way to say, I feel like I am a good dancer and I have this objective information that tells me, backs that up. So the only thing, for instance, the kids have to judge themselves against is each other. So yes, I'm a good dancer. I can dance better than blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And so I'm a pretty good dancer. And when they step out of that environment, they find that the program that they've learned under has been set up to not give them the best advantage. The reason I mention that is because the Austin method with our reviews give you a chance to do self-evaluation. So one of the things I encourage you to do with the Austin method is don't memorize all the reviews. It's okay if you want to learn a couple of, maybe there's 3 reviews, learn 2 of them really well. Don't necessarily memorize them, but leave that third one to be an evaluation, to be able to go out and say, okay, let's see how we're doing. We're just going to do it cold. We're not going to go through it 3 and 4 times until we get it. We're going to just see how we do. If we break down, we go restudy whatever we had trouble with. We go do some of the other reviews, but we'll leave that one as an evaluator. So something to think about. Dances have levels, okay? You will go to an A2 dance, you will go to a plus dance, you will go to a mainstream dance, and then there are mixed format dances. You need to know what to expect when you go to any particular dance. For instance, I know that if I go to a dance that's a plus dance, it's not going to be particularly challenging for me. On the other hand, if I were I'd want to know that my plus may not be up to snuff if I go somewhere else where plus is a little more challenging. So it's not just a matter of what's on the flyer. Is it a plus dance or isn't it? They come in flavors and varieties and different levels of challenges. So if you're thinking of traveling to a dance, if you can find somebody that's been to that dance before or that region before, it's worth asking, what's the dancing like there? While we're on the topic of flyers, if you pick up a flyer for a dance, sometimes it can be really hard to find the level on the flyer. Sometimes you just have to search it real carefully. You might be able to assume it's a mainstream dance if it's not on there, but look really careful, because often it's there and it's just not obvious. So that's levels. Make sure to like and comment before you go. This is the way YouTube tells other people that you found this material engaging one way or the other. Comments are always appreciated. Likes and shares, of course, are much appreciated. And remember, however well-informed and carefully considered they may be, the opinions expressed here are solely my opinions and don't necessarily reflect the opinions of others involved in this production. Thank you for visiting the Austin Method. We hope to see you on the dance floor soon.